Okay. So, again, welcome. Thanks for being here, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Section 3.1. We're going to talk about some vocab terms, and we're going to go through some of the intro words for this unit. So let's do a quick recap of what we talked about yesterday. We talked about lines and planes yesterday. We talked about the definition of them. Lines are where it's a geometric figure that contains 2 points, all the points in between them, and extends in both directions without limits. So we talked about that. So you can see on my picture, I have a couple different lines up there, on the planes, and then where lines are crossing, and they form angles when lines cross. And then planes themselves are those flat surfaces. So that's these objects right here. These are planes. They kind of they mimic a flat piece of paper or an object of some sort. Let me turn off my Wi-Fi so I don't get a bunch of notifications here. But the idea here is that when you're going off a plane, there's no edges. I know the pictures look like there's a border to it. There's really not. They extend in all directions. There's no edges. That was one of the definitions we talked about yesterday. Now, for one of the words that was the main purpose of this unit, this section was talking about parallel. Parallels where two lines or two planes, wherever they are, do not intersect. Now if it's lines, they're on the same flat surface. So like, for instance, these lines right here, let me circle these lines right here. They're on the same flat surface, my iPad screen or this flat plane that I'm using. They don't intersect, they don't touch. The symbol for parallel is those two vertical bars. We talked about that yesterday. But the big thing that I want you to know is the symbol they use on pictures. And this is one of the new things I want to talk about today. It is this symbol right here. This little arrow. In every textbook, it looks different. In your textbook, it's a little pink arrow like you're seeing there. In some other textbooks, when they show parallel lines, let me draw this off to the side here. When they show parallel lines, they might put little arrows like this, or double arrows. It means that they're parallel. They're going the same direction. They're not going to touch. You can just infer that from the actual notation of it. So just be aware of that. It doesn't mean the lines are the same size. Lines don't have size. They're non-measurable, but they're just going the same direction. So that's a little symbol. They don't have a symbol like that for a plane. They just have them for lines. Now, one of the objects we talked about yesterday, I gave you a picture of like a little shoebox kind of a thing. I think it had X and Y. It was green on top and bottom. Well, this is the same type of object, this object right here. It's kind of the same concept. We have parallel planes, we have parallel lines. We have lines that are what we call skew, where they're not parallel, but they don't intersect either. They're on different planes. Like, for instance, DC here, that line. Imagine that DC continued right and left. That line is skew to FG. FG is in the back. They're on two different surfaces. One's in the front, going horizontal, and the other one's in the back, going up and down. They're like at a weird kind of level from each other. They're not even close to each other. So that's kind of an idea that that you need to kind of see. So some classes kind of remember that, some don't. It was one of those things that I'm hoping that makes sense to you. So. But yeah, skew is one of the words, and parallel and lines and planes are words that we talked about in the very first unit. That was back in August. So it was a long, long, long time ago. The goal today is to introduce angles, some different words that I want you to know. And just kind of give you a brief rundown of what they are. And I'm talking very, very quickly. So let's jump right in here and let's talk about the words I want you to have written down today. I would like you to write one of these 6 words here for parallel lines. Transversal, interior, exterior, alternate, same side. Now I put interior here, but it could be same side, exterior, and corresponding. These words are the words I want you to look at here. These are the words I want you to get a definition of, or at least know how to look at a picture and pick up which ones are which. And they're all applied to lines in general, but I'm going to use them for parallel. And then what we're going to learn in this chapter, these next few units that we're doing, that are not units but sections themselves in your textbook, we're going to learn the specific properties about these words. So I want you to know the words before we get to the sections, and that's what I want you to see today. And they apply to pictures like I'm showing you just kind of a random picture I found in the book here where they just have lines crossing. These are not parallel. Obviously, you can tell the lines are not parallel, but these words still apply. You still have interior, you still have exterior angles, you still have alternate angles, same side angles and corresponding. This is going to be a pretty close example of what you're going to see for the Google question of the day that will come out later. I think it comes out about 10 minutes from now, or something like that. It's going to ask you to identify on a picture, give me an example of like interior angles or alternate angles. It'll ask for one of them. I think every class got a different question. So, okay, are we ready? Everyone's good? Okay, so let's jump right in. I'm going to flip through these slides pretty quick. Transversal, it is a type of line that crosses two or more other lines. So it can be a line, it can be an array, it can be a segment. Those are types of lines, right? But it's going to hit two or more lines. So on this particular picture, the transversal is line T, the one that's going up and down vertically. It's crossing two other lines. If I went back to that other picture, the one on the last slide, almost every line up there was a transversal because they cross two or more others. So, but this one in particular, line T is a transversal. Now, if I were to continue some of those lines, like if I were to continue these lines further and further, in fact, every line up here is a transversal because even line, what is this, line R here, this is line R, it actually does cross two other lines. It crosses line T and it crosses line Q. So they are all transversals. It's not the traditional look. The traditional look of a transversal is where it's gonna cross two very distinctly, like they look like they're parallel lines. But these are all actual transversals. So now, how we use that is when you have a transversal cutting through lines, it separates the compartments basically of the picture into interior versus exterior. So on this, we have two lines, okay? Let me pick a kind of a weird color here. Okay, so we have two lines. We have a line going this direction, we have a line going this way, and you have that transversal going down through them. This area in between, which is kind of highlighted here, this area is the interior. So if I wanted to pick interior angles, you pick the angles that are sandwiched in between two lines. It's like a sandwich, right? It's the inside, the interior of the sandwich. That's the idea of the interior angles. And eventually we'll learn properties about them, but those are interior. Then obviously exterior angles are the angles on the outside. I have them labeled on the picture, but so it doesn't matter how the picture is drawn. If I want to draw the picture like this and put a transversal going through it, the interior of this picture that I'm drawing right now is this area. This is the interior. It's the part sandwiched between the two lines. So any angle that falls in that area would be interior. So that's the idea. So it doesn't matter if it's going horizontal versus vertical. It's whatever's sandwiched between two lines. Okay, now exterior, just like before, that's the parts on the outside. So on the outside of the sandwich, we have the exterior up and down. If I went to that same picture I just did a little bit ago, right? I had the two lines going kind of like this, and that transversal cutting through it. The exterior on this picture is the parts on the outside of the sandwich. Okay, so you maybe have to turn your head and kind of see it. So in my case, in this picture, it's 1, 2, 7, and 8. Again, on the first, I guess it's technically the second section, we're going to start learning properties about these. What can they add up to be? What are they? All that good stuff. So especially if they're parallel lines. So those are exterior. Alternate angles. Now we're getting to the more challenging ones. Interior, exterior, they all make sense. It's just you look at the inside, look at the outside. Alternate is a little bit different. There's two such types. There's alternate interior, and then there's alternate exterior. So as the names suggest, if you're going to be an alternate interior, you have to be just interior angles only. So if I was going to talk about alternate interior, I'm just picking from these four angles. 2, 3, 6, and 7. Okay? And so let me draw a line here. So now, alternate angles are the angles that, by definition, They are alternating sides of the transversal. So if I look at the transversal here, this is the transversal line on this particular picture. That line right there. And they cannot be side by side. So alternate are opposite sides of the transversal, and they're not what they call adjacent to each other. So that's why they're saying the 2 and 7 here. These are alternate interiors, or 3 and 6, because they're on opposite sides of the transversal and they're not touching each other. They're not adjacent to each other. So that's an alternate. Now we can also have alternate exterior. So those are the other examples like 5 and 4. Those are alternate exterior. They're on the outside of the sandwich. And then 1 and 8, same thing. Okay, questions at all from any of the words? We talked about interior angles. We talked about exterior. So if you don't understand those, it'll be kind of painful for the rest of these because we talk about interior and exterior for pretty much all of them. Alternate, one's on the other side of the transversal, and they're not side by side. So you have alternate interior and exterior. Okay. Same side. Now I have same side interior. It could be same side exterior. I think that's the next slide. So if these are same side interior, so same side interior. So in this particular case, we have to just pick from the interior angles. So the interior angles on this picture are these 4 right here, just like before. I've been using the same picture over and over and over. Those are the interior. They're sandwiched between the 2 lines. And then same side are on the same side of the transversal. So if I highlight that transversal again, here it is. The same side would be like these 2. They're on the same side of that transversal. Transversal is a line that cuts through 2 other lines. And then 6 and 7. So I kind of have them paired. They're marked off to the side there. Again, we'll learn properties about these in these next few sections. Section 3.2, 3.3, 3.4. We start learning all the specifics about these types of angles, what they should add up to be, what they, which ones are equal, that type of thing, if you have parallel lines. Just like I promised, same side exterior. So now on this particular set, we're just picking from the exterior angles only. So in this particular picture, these are the exteriors. They're on the outside of the 2 lines that are sandwiched together. And then same side would be the ones on the same side of the transversal. So it'd be like 1 and 4 here. Or 5 and 8. They're on the same side of the transversal, but they're both exterior. And we have one more word, and this is my last slide coming up, and then I'll turn you loose and go answer your Google, question of the day here. I don't think it's went live yet. I haven't seen the Bing. Probably another 5 minutes over live. Okay, this is my last slide of the day. So I promised it was going to be short and sweet and to the point today. Corresponding. I think this is probably the most difficult type. Alternate's fine. You're on either interior or exterior, or same side. It's either exterior or interior, and you can adjust. Corresponding is tough. You're on one side of the transversal. So I'm gonna highlight these as we go down. You're on the same side of the transversal, so it's like same side interior or same side exterior. So if I'm gonna pick one side of this transversal, maybe I pick like all of these. Do we agree those are all on the same side, right? They're on the one side of the transversal line that cuts through 2 lines, right? Now, how corresponding works, you have to pick one interior and one exterior. So the interior angles I have are these 2. These are interior, right? I have to pick one of them. So if I pick the number 2, then it automatically tells me, the next rule will tell me what I have to pick next. So again, you're picking one interior and one exterior. And the last rule is that they cannot be adjacent to each other. They cannot be touching. So if I picked like the number 2 for my interior, the exterior angle I have to pick cannot touch 2. So I have to pick the number 4. Those are corresponding. One's interior, one's exterior, and they're not side by side, but they're on the same side of the transversal. It's the most rules. It's like we're mixing everything together. We're picking, same side, we're picking interior, we're picking non-adjacent, which is kind of like the idea of adjacent angles, or alternate interior angles, or alternate, where you had to pick like the ones that are not adjacent to each other. So Yeah, it's got every definition in it. So you got to remember the 3 bullets. They're on the same side of the transversal. One's interior, one's exterior, and they're not next to each other. Okay, so the Google question of the day should probably go live here in about 3 minutes. You're going to be given a picture, kind of like this, and you're going to have to tell me one type of angle. So I'm going to ask, maybe I just want name the interior, name the exterior, or just give me a pair of alternate angles. It'll ask for a very specific type. You type in the numbers that match that specific category, and then you're done. Okay? Okay, that's it. For those who are online, thank you for tuning in. I said today was going to be short and sweet to the point. You guys can log off, go answer your Google question of the day. Hopefully you have your notes, and I'll see you guys next week. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone.